Thank you very much, Madam President. I want to join Senator from Santa Monica and emphasize some of the points that he made, because I think it's important in terms of the nature of this work. And I want to start as someone who comes from the generation of the Academy Award movie, The Graduate. And that famous scene in The Graduate where the father-in-law figure goes to Dustin Hoffman and says, "I just want to say one word to you. Just one word. Are you listening? Plastics." That informed a generation and what the thoughts of what the future looked like. Today, I ask California and the world, are you listening? Because today we have the opportunity to pass the boldest, most comprehensive and well-vetted plastics reduction policy in the nation, if not the world, as was suggested by some of the environmental advocates in the press documents they talked about. This is the biggest bill of the year. The complexities of the issues, as was suggested by the senator from Santa Monica, the great environmental concerns which we are faced with and the embedded interests of industry made the path extremely difficult to navigate. There has been deep involvement and engagement with Assembly members, senators, various stakeholders, as was suggested by the senator from Santa Monica, and not just for the last few weeks, but as he suggested, for the last number of years, because these kinds of issues don't happen overnight. They don't happen where you sit down and say, I want to just put it together. It requires extraordinary collaboration among all of the parties. The author, as he suggested, but I want to embellish on, has worked tirelessly. He and his staff, as he suggested, accurately have held countless meetings here in Sacramento, throughout the state, and in other countries. They brought in experts from both the environmental community and industry to learn lessons from other nations of how to craft the strongest measure possible. This, unlike any other legislation, members, I don't know of any other bill that has had this much attention, comma by comma, haggling over word by word. And this measure reflects the tireless efforts and collective actions, as I suggested, of the environmental community, the environmental justice community, and various other stakeholders. It also reflects hours and hours of engagement between members of this House and the Assembly under the leadership of Assemblywoman Luz Rivas, the Chair of Natural Resources, who put her heart into this, and her staff, Elizabeth. This is an extraordinary day for California, members, solidifying our role as leader in the environmental policy and fights against plastic pollution. I remember the days when Jerry Brown created the Energy Commission, and they came up with standards for refrigerators, and everybody says, oh, it's impossible to meet. And all of a sudden, it becomes a national standard, and everybody makes refrigerators based upon their energy consumption. I remember when Fran Pavley stood on the floor of the other house and talked about tailpipe emissions, and everybody said that was impossible, and guess what? The nation adopted her standards on tailpipe emissions. I believe that what you're seeing here today is a result of the senator and the entire team from Santa Monica's effort, that you're going to see us leading the nation, that other jurisdictions are going to be adopting these kinds of standards which are critically important. This measure, it was suggested by the senator from Santa Monica, will fundamentally decrease the dependence on single-use plastics, and the ripple effect, as I suggested, will be all across the country and even the world. Like the senator from Santa Monica, I want to take a moment of personal privilege to thank some of the folks. In addition to the senator, Tina Angelina, rock star, midnights, crazy, that's her calling me. Just unbelievable. The various stakeholders, Ben Gollenbeck, Adam Wrigley, worked his heart out. Kid I've known his whole life. Other members of the industry, the governor's team. This wouldn't happen without Christy Boma, who understood how hard it is to put these kinds of transactions together and to persuade her office, Ana Montesantos, Melissa Emmel. Unbelievable amount of time. They were dedicated. They worked with all of the various stakeholders. And I just think it's important. We don't often mention individuals' names on this floor, but it's critically important because without them, without their extraordinary leadership and their around-the-clock, midnight, Saturday night, Sunday night, Christine Ari, Saturday, Sunday, 6 in the morning, midnight, incredible. The great Kipster, Senator number 41, he was an important guy. Nick Hardeman, critically important to make all of this happen from the pro tem staff. It wouldn't have happened. And of course, Elizabeth, Assemblymember Luce Rivas. I also want to add Jennifer Fearing, who was just unbelievable, and all of the fearless advocacy informed by her and the larger team of folks that were part of this. And as I close, I want to talk about what I started about in opening about plastics, because then was the future. The message of in that scene in The Graduate was, that's the wave of the future. And what we learned is that we made a mistake. What we learned is that we need to course correct. What we need to do is we're ruining the planet, and we've got to change it. And so there has been this whole political industrial complex built around an industry that is killing us. And this is a gigantic step forward to right that course, to change our view, to course correct. This is as good as it gets, members. I ask for your aye vote.
Ayes 29, no 0. The amendments are concurred in.